Every once in a while, I get this urge to try out some new markers just to see what the market has to offer, not only for myself, but for other people. I stumbled upon these markers called the CMYK Plus markers. This one in specific is the brush and chisel tip, and it was 49 colors plus the alcohol blender, which is 50 markers total, for only $14, which totals out to 28 cents a marker, which I thought was a really great price, and I can afford it, and I thought it was pretty affordable for other people too. Now let's talk about the markers for a little bit. The case was an average case that you get with a lot of the marker brands out there. Upon opening the markers, I really like the way they look just from the outside. Then again, I'm very easily entertained, and I like looking at things that I think are pretty, and colors are very pretty to me. So there's that piece of information. It did come with a white gel pen, which I didn't expect, and it was very nice because not everybody has a white gel pen, so you could use the one that comes in the pack. Most of the markers were standing upright except for the extra two that were on the flap, which was the colorless blender / alcohol blender and the black marker. The barrel of the marker itself is black, and it's written in holographic artist marker, so it doesn't really say the brand on there. It does indicate which side is a broad and which side is a brush nib, so that's nice, but there's no like physical indicator on the marker instead. Once I opened it up, I saw that it had a really nice fat chisel tip, which I personally like the fatter ones more than the skinnier nibs, and then it also had a really nice pointy brush nib at the other end, which I thought looked pretty great. And of course, at the top of the marker, it has the color indicator to tell you what color it is. Like I stated previously, the markers were standing upright, so that means that there was something holding it at the bottom. And sure enough, there was something holding it. Which means that if you want to just select a few markers and take them out the package, instead of opening up the whole package, then you can. Plus, it's pretty easy to take in and out of the package. And finally, it comes with like a little thank you card saying thanks for buying the product, along with their email in case you need to contact them about anything. Okay, now that we've talked about what's inside the package and what it looks like, also sorry my voice is dying, I don't know why, it's time for me to finally swatch the markers. But before I did that, I did organize them so they looked a little bit better in the package, and when I went to swatch them, they'd be grouped up. Like I stated earlier, there are a total of 49 colors and then one colorless blender, or 50 markers altogether. When swatching, I did manage to miss 2 markers because I think I just didn't notice that I skipped over them. I tested both the brush nib and the chisel nib just to see how the ink flow would be for both of them, and they worked out pretty well. What I really liked from this entire set was just how nice the colors really are. Sometimes you get colors that are dry or that just don't look nice and vibrant on the paper, and it ultimately doesn't look nice, but these came out really nice when I put them down on this cardstock paper. I also thought that the color range was pretty nice. There was enough of every color to where I could get a good gradient with them, and there was also enough amount of grays in there, so this way people like me who really like to use gray can really expand and use that section as much as they want. It also came with a good amount of really light colors, and I was actually pretty surprised by that, because I know a lot of marker brands have that problem where they can't do lighter colors, or it's light enough but not as light as you want it to be, which is, you know, pretty like pastel and stuff like that. But it came with a good amount of pastel-ish colors too, and I was genuinely like, wow, that's fantastic. I did try out both the chisel and the brush nib, of course. The chisel nib had a nice flow to it. Usually chisel nibs I'm not too worried about because they're always pretty up to quality. The brush nib, on the other hand, was pretty good too. I actually liked it a lot. When I was putting it down, it felt like the flow was really nice. It wasn't like too much ink or too little ink coming out. The only thing that I was like, okay, this is definitely gonna happen, is that the tip of the nib, the very top, is going to fray over time because of the sole fact that, well, it's a cheaper nib. It's not gonna hold up that long, but it's still really good for the price that it comes with. Whenever I do something like this where I test out markers, I really like to consider the price for what you get. So for something like this where it's a $14 brush pack, the brush markers are going to last you a really long time before they start fraying. I guess you're just going to have to work around that, like maybe use a lighter touch. Or you could do a technique that I use even with my Copic markers, which is fill in a large area with a chisel nib, and then go in and finish the details or blend things out with your brush nib, just so your brush nib lasts a little longer. At the bottom of the page, after I finished swatching everything, I decided to test out how the blending goes. Of course, I tested out a few different colors, I didn't just stick with the same ones, and I even tested out how it would blend if I put down the colorless blender first. And from what I saw, which usually happens, the colorless blender did help it blend even better. When I was using colors that were alike though, it definitely worked just as fine. I think the blending is really good on these markers. In fact, it's surprisingly good for how cheap they come for, which is great. I did test out the dark red and the light red twice. That's when I said I did the colorless blender thing, just to try it out, and it did work better. And I also tried the white gel pen, which I always have bad luck with, so it wasn't bad, but for me, I personally still like using my Signo Uniball. But it's good for people who don't have a white gel pen. Finally, I think it's time for the most important test of all, which is actually trying it out on a drawing. I drew this on Procreate. It's supposed to be after the Drawtober prompt stars, and then after drawing it, I printed it out on Nina cardstock, which is what I use as a base for all marker tryouts. Okay, so I picked the colors along as I went because I already had an idea of what I wanted to do with his look. I just want to say that these markers are genuinely incredible. Like, I was having such a fun time using them. Granted, that could be because I haven't done like a marker drawing in like a week or so it was refreshing to use my markers instead of doing an entire piece digital. But I really think using them was an extremely pleasant experience. Like, the blend was great, I didn't have any problems. I didn't feel like I was missing a color when I was using them. It was really nice using them and seeing how you can get something that is great quality for the price, which is something that is hard to come by because not every brand does a good job with their markers, and not every brand comes with a good price for something like a brush marker. So having these available at your fingertips instead of at a really big price wall, something like Copics or Prismacolor or Winsor & Newton, is honestly just a great thing. While I was using them, I did notice that when you first put them down, they're just like a teeny bit darker. I don't really think it was too noticeable than when the color dries, which isn't bad to me at all. It could be way worse, but it's not like the color gets put down completely different than when it dries. No, it looks like it's just wet on the paper until the marker finally gets the opportunity to absorb into it and have that finished look. I think the way that a lot of these markers work together is very nice, like the purple with the skin tone along with the blush color, and then you also have like the light blue tips on the character's hair blending in with the blonde parts of their hair, which I feel like worked really well. Usually you will have problems when it comes to blending with that because the colors are so far off, but it didn't give me that issue, and I was happy to see that it just worked really nicely. As I stated earlier, I thought that the nibs were going to start fraying soon if I started using them too much, which it did kind of start happening. It didn't break the nib apart completely though, which is a good thing. It's just over time it will start to wear down, which is why I suggested the method of using the chisel nib for a big area and then coming in with the brush nib after. So again, that's like one thing that you have to hold accountable for them, but like I said, for the price, I can't see why this would be a no from me. If something is bad, I genuinely will say, hey, this product works like poo-poo and it sucks. So I would say that, but the pleasant experience that I had with these and how the drawing just went effortless. Wow, I can't say the word. Effortlessly. There we go. I really think somebody who's new with markers and somebody who's seasoned with markers would really enjoy using these just because of how honestly great they are. They also have, I believe, a brush pack of skin tones, and they honestly looked really good, but I wanted to get the multiple colored pack just to put myself in the position of, okay, I don't have, or like, you know, quote unquote, what if I don't have those other kinds of markers to help supplement. So I was like, okay, let's just get the big pack, which would probably include some skin tones anyway, and use that. And then later on, I could get the brush skin tone markers, and then maybe try them out on their own separate drawing in another time. Overall, like I've been saying this whole video, I really like the markers. And I think that this drawing, right here's the finished piece, is awesome. I really like the blend. Everything came out perfect, and I love it. I literally have been staring at it nonstop since I finished it. And yeah, if you think of getting it or getting it for somebody else, definitely suggest. So, thanks for watching, and remember I love you. Bye.